It's very good to have you with us at this hour. I'm Daniel Che. Let's start with the latest in a chain of unfortunate events for the embattled main opposition party. The party's co-founder called it quits on Sunday, not long after his fellow co-founder, celebrity politician An Chul-soo, walked away from the party last month. It's just another blow for the party, which is struggling to pull itself together ahead of a general election in the spring. Lee Soo-eun has our top story.
Another top gun is leaving the main opposition party. On Sunday, Representative Kim Han-gil announced he's leaving the Minju Party of Korea. Kim co-founded the party and represented a minority faction that is not loyal to the current party chairman Moon Jae-in.
I will move toward victory in the April general elections and establish a new political order.
Kim's departure leaves the country's main opposition party down 9 lawmakers and thus 9 seats in parliament since December 13th, when co-founder An Chul-soo became the first to walk away. The party has tried to overcome the crisis by vowing reform and changing its name from New Politics Alliance for Democracy to the Minju Party of Korea, but Kim's departure puts its back on shaky ground. More lawmakers are expected to defect from the main opposition as well, especially with An's declaration that he would create a new party before the April election. On Sunday, An introduced his new team, announcing the names of those who will spearhead the party's launch. Whether Kim will join them is still in question, as he told reporters that he would need to talk it over with An. But many expect that it's only a matter of time before he does, considering his frequent mention of An in his departure announcement. Lee Soo-eun, Arirang News.
President Park Geun-hye is set to sit down with some of the biggest movers and shakers in politics and economy at her annual New Year's meeting on Monday, where she'll lay out a blueprint for state affairs for the year 2016. The list of attendees include National Assembly Speaker Chung Yoo-hwa, Supreme Court Chief Justice Yang Seung-tae, Prime Minister Hwang Kyo-hwan, the Seoul mayor, and the chairs of the main rival parties, and other top government officials and experts as well. The focus will be on economic revival, with an emphasis on youth job creation. The agenda will also touch on electoral redistricting ahead of a general election in the spring, labor reform, counterterrorism measures, and North Korea's human rights situation. President Park is also expected to discuss the recent landmark deal with Japan on wartime sexual slavery. North Korean leader Kim Jong-un stressed the economy over the military in his New Year's address on Friday, saying all efforts should be directed toward building an economic power and raising living standards. This is in stark contrast to his previous New Year's speeches, which focused on the country's military strength or nuclear capability. Kim used the word Sungun, the North's military-first policy, only twice in this year's speech, according to a report by the Sejong Institute. That's a noticeable change from his first New Year's address back in 2012, when he used it 17 times. Kim's emphasis on the economy may help explain why the young leader was at the opening of a science technology complex in Pyongyang instead of a military facility on New Year's Day. The complex emphasizes the development of science and technology for growth. Leaders in North Korean society have pledged their allegiance to Kim Jong-un in response to his New Year's address. North Korea's state-run Nodong Shinmun newspaper reported on Sunday that politicians, academics, and student leaders in the field of science and agriculture have vowed to follow Kim's directive to bolster the economy. The address seems to have set off a kind of competition, as other leading experts in various fields have made similar pledges, according to stories in state-run newspapers and television that have run since Saturday. This is the first weekend of the New Year, and many Koreans are resting at home with their families, but it's business as usual for the South Korean Navy, dedicated to protecting the country. Kim Hyun-bin followed them to the western border island of Yeonpyeong-do to see what they do to stay sharp.
An emergency siren rings out across a floating naval base near South Korea's western border island of Yeonpyeong-do. Sailors in full gear head straight to their stations. Within 5 minutes, a naval patrol boat hits the swell and is ready for combat. Soon after, the PKG patrol vessel fires dozens of cannon rounds at enemy ships that infiltrated the maritime border, separating the two Koreas. Bullseye. This exercise is part of the South Korean Navy's New Year firing drill at the northern limit line.
South Korean naval ship that sets sails to NLL conducts a live firing drill to ensure they're well prepared in case the North launches a surprise attack.
Operations around Yeonpyeong-do are particularly sensitive. The island came under artillery bombardment from North Korea in 2010, killing 2 South Korean soldiers and 2 civilians. And the waters around the island have seen naval skirmishes in the recent past.
Our Navy personnel go through intensive training and maintain the highest naval readiness. If the enemy provokes, we will strongly counter and secure the NLL.
Since the shelling of Yeonpyeong-do, South Korea's Navy and the Marine Corps have significantly beefed up their military readiness. The island is now home to 3 times as many multiple rocket launchers and heavy artillery than it used to be.
We're prepared to counter any provocations from the enemy. If the North provokes, we'll respond faster, stronger, and more accurately.
Marking the new year, South Korea's Navy has reiterated its pledge to keep the nation's seas safe and secure, so the rest of us can go about our lives in peace. Kim Jong-un, Arirang News, Yeonpyeong-do.
Looks like Korea, the United States, and Japan will hold more trilateral meetings this year. On Sunday, Japanese daily Nihon Keizai Shimbun reported the 3 are working to set up a meeting between President Park Geun-hye, President Barack Obama, and Prime Minister Shinzo Abe in March. Japanese broadcaster NHK reported the 3 sides are also coordinating a meeting between Korea's Vice Foreign Minister Im Sung-nam, his Japanese counterpart Akitaka Saiki, and U.S. Deputy Secretary of State Tony Blinken in the middle of this month. Meanwhile, Korea's foreign ministry pointed out that whether Seoul and Tokyo's landmark agreement on Japan's wartime sexual slavery will be included in that tripartite gathering is not confirmed yet. Other items may include security issues in Asia, namely North Korea's nuclear and missile threats, and China's actions to enhance its maritime power. And it looks like the dark cloud hanging over the global economy will stick around into the new year, dragging down growth largely due to changes to the world's top 2 economies, the U.S. and China. According to Kim Jong-un, Korea will not likely be an exception.
Data compiled by Bloomberg shows financial institutions are projecting global growth of 3.1% on average, the lowest since the aftermath of the global financial crisis in 2009. The International Monetary Fund estimates the global economy will expand by 3.6% this year, but the slightly rosier projection is not exactly a sign of optimism. IMF Managing Director Christine Lagarde told German business daily Handelsblatt on December 30th that global growth would be disappointing and uneven this year, as a U.S. rate hike will lead to tighter credit conditions and higher debt servicing costs for emerging markets. The IMF calculated that emerging market companies have overborrowed by $3 trillion in the last decade, reflecting a quadrupling of private sector debt between 2004 and 2014. Data compiled by Bloomberg also shows financial institutions project the U.S. will grow at the same rate as last year at 2.5%, while the Chinese economy will expand at the rate of 6.5% this year, slightly lower than the 6.9% it recorded last year. As China is Korea's largest trading partner, the country is likely to see sluggish growth as well. Seoul-based LJ Economic Research Institute says Korea's growth this year will be slightly lower than last year at 2.5%, while state-run think tank Korea Development Institute predicts growth in the mid-2% range. The Bank of Korea said last month it will lower its growth forecast from its current estimate of 3.2% due to higher external risk. Kim Jong-un, Arirang News.
And elsewhere around the world, Saudi Arabia's execution of the prominent Shiite cleric Sheikh Nimr al-Nimr has stirred anger among Shiites abroad. Protesters have come out to rally against the execution in several countries, including Saudi Arabia's regional rival Iran, where the Saudi embassy was set on fire. On Saturday, Saudi Arabia executed 47 Muslims, including the cleric and dozens of al-Qaeda members, on terrorism charges, accusing them of adopting a radical ideology, joining terrorist organizations, and implementing various criminal plots. Most of the executed are said to be Sunni jihadists, but the group included 4 Shiites, signaling that Saudi Arabia will not tolerate attacks by either faction of the Muslim religion. In recent years, Saudi Arabia has become increasingly aware of the growing power of Sunni jihadist groups against the kingdom and the growing influence of Iran. Vietnam and the Philippines reacted in anger after China landed a plane on an artificial island it built in a contested part of the South China Sea. Vietnam formally accused China of violating its sovereignty, while the Philippines is set to protest the action. The Chinese plane made the landing Saturday at an airfield on Fiery Cross Reef that security experts say could accommodate most Chinese military aircraft. The United States has expressed concern that the test flight will aggravate tensions among the countries. China claims almost all of the South China Sea, which is believed to have huge deposits of oil and gas, and through which about $5 trillion in shipborne trade passes every year. Brunei, Malaysia, and Taiwan all have rival claims in the area. And now for a quick look at the weather before we go. In most parts of Korea, the first Monday morning of 2016 is set to be windy and hazy. There will be mild levels of fine dust in the air, but not as bad as what we had here on Sunday here in Korea. There will also be temperatures that will start in below zero in Chuncheon, but it will get up to 6 degrees Celsius later in the day. Seoul and Daegu will both start out the day at 2, but we'll see temperatures rise to 5 and 9 later on. And that's Korea for you. Let's check out the weather conditions in your neck of the woods and around the world. That's all we have for you at this hour. As always, thank you for watching. Here's wishing you a great start to a brand new week.